And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gorongosa Coffee Conversation. I am your host. I am Dominique Gonçalves, and I manage the Elephant Ecology Project in Gorongosa. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Dr. Joyce Poole. Joyce is an elephant behavior studying elephant behavior and communication over 40 years. Joyce is also a member of the African Elephant Specialist Group, the co-founder of Elephant Joyces, and Joyce and I met for the first time in 2015, and she became my mentor as I was an intern for Elephant Voices in Gorongosa National Park at that time. So today is a special day because today is World Elephant Day and also International Youth Day. So welcome everyone for this very special day and amazing topic that we have today. A little bit of facts. Elephants are a keystone species, means that as they move and feed in the landscape, they disperse seeds and shape the ecosystem for many other species that live in the same ecosystem. So it means that they create and maintain ecosystems and they live, and also making them available for everyone else. So African elephants is listed as a vulnerable species, and Asian elephant is endangered species by the IUCN Red List. Poaching, habitat destruction, and human-wildlife conflict really threatens the survival of the elephants. But for the next half hour, we'll be having Gorongosa coffee. Today, of course, I'm having Elephants Never Forget. Lovely cup. And we're gonna be talking about elephants with Joyce. So Joyce, I consider myself so lucky to have you as my mentor and to have the opportunity of learning about elephants with you in the field. And today I just have a few questions and would love for you just to talk. So should we start?
We can start. And I'm so happy to see you again, Dominique. It's been a while.
It's been a while, I know. Happy to see you too.
It feels so great to chat with you today.
Thank you. And just a reminder, the audience of the giveaway, stay with us and ask questions, and you might be the winner of a Gorongosa trio. So I'm going to start. Joyce, what's your favorite thing about elephants?
That's too hard. There's so many favorite things. Gosh. I think they have a sense of humor. I love being with elephants when they are acting silly. And that doesn't happen very much in Gorongosa, I have to say. We don't have the luxury of just hanging around while elephants are feeling very relaxed and happy. But in Amboseli, where I've worked, we have a lot of fun just watching elephants enjoying themselves and even showing us that, you know, they're enjoying themselves, interacting in a way with us.
Yeah, and you know, it takes me exactly for my next question. You worked in distinct places with maybe different cultures, which is Kenya and Mozambique, in Amboseli and Gorongosa National Park, respectively. And I'm curious about your best memories and the challenges you faced in the places you worked. Did these challenges and memories helped you in your work?
Challenges and best memories. I mean, I think, excuse me, I mean, the wonderful thing about Amboseli, working in Amboseli, was that I was working with a population of, you know, over 1,000 known individuals that have been studied for many, many years. It's the longest study of elephants in the world. And so, you know, you can get right up close to them. You know who is who, you know who's the sister to this elephant or that elephant, who's their mother, who's their, in some cases, who their father is. And so that everything that happens is within that context. You have that background. It's just like studying a human family in a sense. So, you know, so when an elephant dies, you know, when you watch what happens around that, it's the information is so rich. In Gorongosa, it was very different. Because we didn't know the elephants that well. We were trying to get to know them. and they're so aggressive because of their history. They're frightened of people, and their reaction is either to run away or to charge often. But the wonderful thing about working in Gorongosa was that was a side of elephants that I didn't get to see in Amboseli, because the elephants in Amboseli were so used to people and so relaxed around us, we didn't get to see their defensive behavior very often. And that is where you really see elephants working together and really watch their communication. So that was, I found that really fascinating, although it was challenging. I mean, it was very challenging to have to be on your guard all the time, because you never knew who was going to come running out of the bushes after you.
I know exactly the way you felt. Well, for those who maybe haven't heard about that, but Gorongosa is quite special in that way, elephants of Gorongosa. And I remember when I visited Samburu, I think it was 2018, recommended by you, Joyce, and the team was so relaxed going to see elephants, and I was just so nervous. I couldn't manage. Because in Gorongosa I'm used to do most of the things, and only me and a colleague. But in Samburu it was just fine, and a lot of people and loud, and they just could just see elephants and drive to them. And I was so nervous, and I want to say hello to my friends over there, Davido, who helped me a lot. And they would just say, relax, why are you so nervous? I'm like, you have no idea. I can't wait for you to come to Gorongosa one day, and then you'll see what what I'm feeling. True.
Yeah, I mean, in Amboseli, we can drive up to, a meter away from the elephants and just sit in their midst and watch everything that's going on and sit with them for hours. Whereas in Gorongosa, both you and I have had elephants hit the car, and damage our cars. So that is, yeah, it's a challenge. And
I remember that day.
yeah, the habitat is also challenging, because in East Africa, where I've worked in both the Mara and in Amboseli, the habitat's very open. So you can see the elephants from long distance, whereas in Gorongosa, the habitat is so thick.
Sure. That is what I try to explain to them, but
But that leads, I mean, the difference in habitat also leads to different kind of behavior.
Exactly. That's very nice to know. And exactly, I'm so glad you mentioned behavior, because that's exactly where I want to go. So Joyce, we know that species can connect people to nature and make people to be inspired and care about. Elephants, for example, are one of the most famous charismatic species, right? But often to the people who live next to them, they're not just charismatic species. They might be good things and bad things associated to them. And human-elephant conflict is a real concern. And your work in Gorongosa focus on behavior and identification, many other things. But I would love for you to explain to me and to the audience, why does animal behavior is so important for broad ecology, and how this can help inform, strategies for human-elephant resistance?
That's a tough question, Dominique, really. I mean, I can see lots of ways in which the study of elephants has led to a greater understanding. And for instance, before my work on musk males, we used to think that the older males were reproductively senile, and therefore it was okay to, shoot them for their big tusks or hunt them for their big tusks. And now we know those are the reproductively active males. But there's always this issue around, the people who have to live alongside elephants. But I think that, one thing that we found in Gorongosa was, for instance, that that in the middle of the park, males were in small groups, but when you saw them near the edge of the park, they were in much bigger groups. So they are planning their raids, and I think we have to realize that what we're up against here. These are not just animals, or sort of animals just guided by evolutionary instincts or something. These are animals that are really clever. They are planning what they're doing. They're getting together with their mates, and waiting until the time is right. They know when people go to sleep. They know that we don't see well in the dark, and they're really, in a way, exploiting us. So we have to be ahead of the game. Now, what that is, that's what we're all struggling with. I mean, one thing that we, like Lucy King has found, for instance, is that elephants are scared of bees. And that's a behavior. And they've learned even that the elephants have in a way, a word or a referential signal for bees. So these are things, and you put that to work, with the beehives and everything. And that's led to some advances. But if we hadn't studied their behavior, we wouldn't know this.
Well put. So you think that there's still a lot more to be found out about the behavior of elephants?
Absolutely, certainly their communication, because of their sounds, the sounds they make. Most of them are very, very low frequency. So a lot of the sound is below the level of human hearing. So it's hard for us to, decipher all these different sounds. So a lot of work still needs to be done in that respect, even though we have learned a lot. I've identified some 30 different calls and I feel I have a fairly good idea of what they mean. But I bet you that that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think that when we see how well they coordinate their behavior, that there's just much more going on than we understand at the moment. And maybe these can lead to solutions. I mean, you and I talked earlier about the fact that because they make these very low frequency sounds, using those to play back, let's say, to keep elephants out of farms and stuff is really difficult, because then you need a 200-pound speaker to reproduce those sounds. So we have to really be clever with elephants.
Cool. And talking about that, of learning sounds and know exactly what they are, I would love for you to tell us, what are you working, the interesting work you're doing now, which is an elephant ethogram. What is this? How does it work? Why is it important?
So we're building an online database. I mean, the database has been built. It's not public yet, but we're populating it now. It's called the Elephant Ethogram, a library of African elephant behavior. And we've documented and described 200, I think it is 73 behaviors, individual behaviors, and another 85 behavioral constellations. That is, behaviors that typically occur together, like a muscle walk, for instance. And each of those behaviors then is documented with video. And we have to thank Gorongosa, because in the Gorongosa series, we were granted the use of that footage to document all these behaviors. And so that has been really, really important. And through this work, we've seen how different these different populations of elephants behave. It's not to say that the behavior is entirely different from one place to the other, but the frequency of different behaviors is different.
And the elephant ethogram is going to be open access to anyone, or just for researchers or students?
No,
how's it going to be?
Absolutely, it's going to be open access for everyone.
So everyone can learn a little bit more about elephant behavior.
Yes, yeah, and they'll be able to see a lot of Gorongosa elephants, and each video has a detailed description about exactly who's who and who's doing what, and what they're saying, and what the behavior means. So for instance, all that lead up to the charges, you can see how they're talking with one another, and who's deciding, and who makes the first move, and everything.
So one thing I've always been curious, and remember, every time when we approached an elephant family, they would make the low rumble. And you always said, maybe they're just saying people. Is that really a thing? Is it really described in the ethogram? I would love to know, because I always said, even to whoever is with me, I say they're saying they come people.
Yeah,
they smell like people. So
I don't know, because unfortunately I wasn't recording in Gorongosa. I didn't have my infrasound recorder. I have a special recorder that can record those very low frequencies. So it was only in the last 2 years that I took the recorder with me. So I don't have enough examples of that. But certainly when elephants are, when they're alarmed about something and they want to let others know there's something going on, there's that very low frequency, soft rumble, very, very deep rumble. And it's always the same, but whether that is people or, hey, heads up, we've got to, we might have to organize ourselves now, either to take off running or get them.
Right. Exactly. It's always those few seconds that really makes my heart almost explode. What they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's of course now I feel I can really predict what is going to happen next. I mean, not 100%, but I have a pretty good idea early on which way it's going to be.
Right. Oh, cool. And is there any really, how can I say, really amazing memory in Gorongosa with elephants, or a character or an individual that you really always remember? For example, I have many, but I have a favorite one.
Tell me yours.
Favorites actually, but I was wondering about yours.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, of course, the Mabenzis. I have such strong feelings for the Mabenzi family, especially Provocadora, but she's not with us anymore. But the whole way that family coordinates their charges, their group charges, I think it's just magnificent. But then I love Corajosa. I love Iria. No, I mean they're incredible, all of them. But tell me your favorite story, or your favorite
stories. So many. One I liked the most was actually my first time without you in the field, and I always tell this story. So I apologize for the audience if anyone have heard this already. Was my first time driving and tracking elephants to do then recording behavior, as you told me. And I had people with me. I had Michelle Souza and many others. And then I got to the beautiful tree-pan loop. No, it was not the tree-pan, sorry. It was on the tree, picada tree.
Yeah.
The nice pan over there. And I see this big male. But then I look around and there's another 4 younger males. And one was in mast, as I then figured out, and they were really advancing. And I just switched off the engine and I, stayed there. And then this male came so close to me, so close, and I couldn't even breathe. And I could hear Michelle on the back panicking, and I was just like, shh. And this male came so close, and I could see my face on his amber eyes. It was amazing. And it was just that close, believe me, I will never forget. And I said to God, if he decided to do something, will be done, probably. But he decided to he stayed there for the longest, probably 6 seconds of my life. And then he moved to the pan and they started to eat the water lilies. And that was Aloisio. A very favorite male. He had 2 stars, he lost one, and all the stories.
I found that tusk.
Yes, I remember that. And we could see him always touching the tooth cavity. The other one is about the female with the baby, and it's a sad story, but was the most amazing behavior display I ever, had the opportunity to see with elephants, because I was with colleagues, was Jason and I actually doing our normal work, and we see this female who you spotted before you left with a snared calf, remember? And and I was then in charge of trying to find it again so I could get the vets to help. And we found this female, and she was zatting just like crazy. She destroyed about 3 little trees in front of us. She charged it at all angles, but never hitting the car. And the most disturbing thing for me to see was when she picked a branch and she started to eat herself with the branch. And only 30 minutes after all this madness, we saw the little baby near the water. And that was the snared baby. And of course, we did everything we could. And then she went. A few days after, Jason ended up seeing her alone, so the baby died. But I'll never forget that memory, and you know how she was stressed and
Yeah.
kind of wanting help, but at the same time, I don't know how to explain. And I ended up naming her after my mom. So
Yeah,
that's Mila.
that's Mila.
You're right.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
No, go for it.
No, it's funny, your story about the males. I don't think you told me that before, but when it was like my first or second day out in Amboseli. So back in 1975,
Wow.
I had a little book. I was supposed to draw all the ears because the males weren't known then. And so I went out and I found a group of 4 males and I drove off the road up to them and they surrounded the car. And I had no idea they were being friendly. And I was so scared. And I was in my family's VW bus. I got out of the driver's seat and I hid behind the seat. And I've been hiding there for about 40 minutes with these males just towering over the car. And then finally they went away and I drove back and I told Cynthia what had happened. She said, they were just being friendly,
Oh, no. Yeah, you never know. So I'll go back to my questions because I have a few more.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned before, I'm reading this book called Becoming Wild by Carl Safina. And for me, it's fascinating to learn more about animal culture, so to say. For example, they have he has Shane Giro, Dr. Shane, an amazing I think he is also a behaviorist who works with the Dominican Well Project. And I remember once seeing him talking and him saying that every family and the whales had their own language. So therefore they have their own kind of, they kind of have their own culture. So losing a family means that you're losing part of the culture of this massive population. So I always, the moment I heard that, I thought, is that the same with elephants? It might be the same. What Joyce thinks about that. So that's my question for you. Do you think, what can you say about young elephants learning from older ones and through communication and observation behavior? But I don't know, just in those lines.
We don't know whether they have dialects. That we don't know yet. We don't have enough, I suppose, recordings from different places, and we don't know. There's not enough of a difference for us to have been able to pick up whether there's dialects. But we do know that they learn from others. I mean, there's social learning and there's vocal learning. So elephants are able to imitate other elephants, other species, even machines. We have examples of elephants imitating a truck. So they have a very flexible vocal tract. They're able to even use their trunk in a way to form different sounds. So it's likely that there are differences in different populations, and certainly they learn from the parents and from observing others. In Gorongosa, I think that's one of the problems, is that these young elephants are learning from their mothers that people are scary, or learning to crop raid. So they're raised and they follow the others, and it's actually funny, and I could see this in some of the videos, where when they're very young, sometimes in the middle of a charge, these young ones are busy trying to suckle. They're completely oblivious to what's going on. But at other times, they're really, okay, now we've got to run. Now we've got to run at these people, and they're coming. So, they learn at a young age.
So there is room to try to find about elephant dialects.
Yes. And I would just participated in a workshop on animal communication, and that was one of the questions I was asked as well. But unfortunately, I don't have the answer yet.
Not yet.
Somebody else will have to do that work probably.
So on the light of the current situation, I was wondering if there's anything you'd like to say to the audience regarding elephants and elephants' well-being, and people who live next to them also well-being. during these unpredictable times, in the
Mm.
terms of the big picture, how everything is connected. And I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people are wondering, what about people, what about wildlife? In this case, I would like to ask about elephants.
Yes. I mean, I'm, here I am sitting in Norway at the moment, and you're sitting in the UK, and both of us are worried about what's going on in the places where we work. For me, both Gorongosa and say Amboseli and the Mara. I sort of feel more happy about Gorongosa because I feel Gorongosa hasn't been so reliant on tourism. But in the other places I've worked, those populations are really reliant on tourism. That's where the revenue comes to pay the rangers. That's where the revenue comes to lease land, like around Mara. There are all these conservancies that have been recently established, and people are paid leases for using that land for elephants. And if the Maasai don't, if there's no tourists visiting, then there's no money going to the landowners. Why should they keep that land available for elephants? So, and there are also people going hungry now. So will they turn to poaching either for meat or for ivory? And this is a real concern, especially as we look forward and wonder, well, how long is this COVID thing going to last? If it eases up soon, it'll be okay. But if it doesn't, and it doesn't look like it's going to ease up anytime soon in terms of people starting to travel. So I do appeal to any of you out there listening, if you're able to support any of these conservancies in Africa or other, people really need support right now, both people and organizations, to continue to protect animals. I guess that's what you.
Yeah. And I have to say, I like the fact that you're putting as a question, would people really turn into poaching, instead of just saying it, as some of headlines just say, just state in that way. And I think it's never kind of happened before in this scale, and we just have to wait and hope for the best. But also, every one of us can do a little, even from far away. So my last question for you, Joyce, is, when you see today is World Elephant Day and also International Youth Day. So I wonder, how do you feel when you look at all these years that you have been working since you were very young until today, all the challenges, all the, the steps you took, all the wins you had, all the losses you had. How do you feel about the day today? Do you feel worried? Do you still, happy, hopeful? How do you feel? Do you have anything to say to other young, not only young, but especially the young elephant lovers over there?
Yeah, gosh, for me and for Elephant Voices, every day is Elephant Day. That's, we think, breathe elephants on a daily basis. But if I think back, sometimes, like at a time like this, I can feel, wow, where is this headed? Where are we headed? I can worry about the population growth, the human population growth, and thinking about land and, just the demand for resources, both for elephants and for people, and where is this going to end? On the positive side, though, what has changed from the time I started is people like you, Dominique. When I started, it was, people from overseas, people from the US, from Europe, coming to study elephants and other wildlife. And there were very few young Africans who were interested or able or had the opportunity to do the kind of work that I did. And now, I sort of feel like I don't really have, there's not, I mean, yes, I can contribute, but when I look at Kenya right now, and I look at the number of young people and competent people who are taking the reins now, that makes me feel really positive. Kenya has got such a strong conservation community, and it's all young Kenyans. Not even so young anymore, many of them.
Yeah, I am lucky enough to know some of them and really proud to know them, not only in Kenya, but in Zambia, in South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe. So just hello for you to you, my friends, you know, who am I talking about? And I think these were my questions. And now we're going to go to the audience questions. I wonder what they have been asking. And okay, here we start. Question number 1 is from Rosa Dean. Hi, Rosa. She says, hello, both. What would be one thing you would wish people know about elephants when they encounter one? Ay, ay, ay. What would that be, Joyce?
That they're very like us in many ways, and they're very different from us in very many ways. That they need respect. They need you to think. You need to watch the elephant closely to know whether it's happy with you being there or not, and respect what the elephant wants. That takes a little bit of observation, but I think anyone who is paying attention will know whether the elephant is happy for you to be there or not, and give it its space. I think I think too many people just drive up and drive too fast and talk too loudly
and bang on the cars.
On the car or whatever.
Right. I would just add to that. I agree. And one thing I would love people to know is that that's not just an animal. You know, it is per se an animal, but with a lot of, you know, thoughts too, and so smart, and feelings. And some of the most common to us, as Joyce says, such as empathy. So they might also be scared, at least in Gorongosa, right? I can only properly talk about them.
Family.
Sorry?
Or worried about what the car might do to another member of its family.
Exactly. They're worried too. They're surprised too. They, you know, it's just to validate the feelings you're having. It might be similar to theirs too. Yes. Question number 2 from Andy Dobson says, hi there, super discussions. What is the most important thing we can do to help protect elephants in the world today?
Oh gosh, Andy, so
nice. Everything.
No, I think kind of right now, I really think that anyone who has a little bit of extra cash to donate toward organizations or young people like Dominique who've got studies going on, anything that, or the conservancies, just to tide people through this very, very difficult time. I know that everyone is having trouble, but if you have any extra, please think of the wildlife and the people trying to look after them.
Agreed, and thanks for mentioning as young researchers that also still need a lot of support. And one other thing I would say, you know, I always say, even when students or anyone asks me what can I do, and I always start by inform yourself a little bit more, and don't be misinformed. Really get well informed, and then help spread the word, and educate others, because these are little things that we all can do. And then support these projects and the people who are working on the ground. And maybe not even, like, I'm not in the ground right now, but I do have my colleagues and other people I know that are working right now. So support this, because it's important, and we actually all depend on it by the end. Question number 3 says, from Gorongosa National Park. What's the funniest incident with elephants you have shared together? I think I have one. I wonder what you've been thinking, Joyce.
I'm trying to remember our times together. Oh, there was the time. Actually, it was the same day with your elephant with the snare the first time, and with Gorongosa. So that was but that was just another charge, wasn't it? But what do you think of?
Oh, now you just made my thoughts go way. So many things. I remember a few, but one of the ones that I found the most funniest was when I first ever heard an elephant farting. And we were in near the, I think it was near the lake, and the beautiful trees and the beautiful acacias, with the pods that the elephants love it.
Yeah.
Now I don't get the name, but I remember he did, and Peter said to me, "That's very dangerous when you hear them farting. Means that you're too close." So this was one, and the other one I remember. It was funny for me because I keep laughing at this. Was the first time we saw an elephant in mast, and
Yeah.
and he had his genitalia out. And I remember how awkward you felt to tell me everything about it because he was pee and then would have a full erection and everything. And I remember Peter just getting very serious, and you trying to explain that to me. It was so funny for me. It was like, oh no, it was a funny moment. I bet there's many others, but these are the ones that just come to my mind right now.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, when, an elephant has a penis that weighs basically this as much as we do, right?
Correct.
So, it's pretty obvious when they have an erection. No, since I studied male reproductive behavior, I don't get very flustered talking about all this stuff, but probably at that moment it was, it's pretty graphic, isn't it?
It was pretty graphic. I know. It was pretty graphic, and was also my first time. So I was also, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Fun together.
and then the other question is from Larissa. How come elephants never forget? Thanks for the question, Larissa.
Well, I mean, they're very long lived. We didn't talk about how long they live, but they can live up to 70 years. They live in very close knit families like ours. Their bonds are very close, so they have reason to remember, and they have very large brains. They have to remember, where they found water during a drought 10 years before. They have to remember the voices of all their clan members. So for an elephant society to work, they have to have this long-term memory. And in a way, if you think about it, we tend to think that we are so special, but we're very smart, and but when it comes to ability to smell, ability to hear, we're not nearly so good as elephants. Ability to feel things through the ground, they're much more sensitive than us. So they can discriminate between the very, very tiny sounds, tiny differences in scent, tiny vibrations. So we're talking about a very sensitive, intelligent animal. And if you think about how their social structure is organized, why wouldn't they have a long-term memory?
Right.
And they do.
And they do. I hope you're happy with the answer, Larissa. Mm-hmm. And well, I'm afraid we are getting to the end. But before we go or anything, I would like to say that the winner of today's draw, the Elephant Day and Youth International Day, is Andy. So congratulations, Andy. You're going to get a Gorongosa trio. I hope you enjoy. And well, I have to say today's an important day, and it's the third time I joined Gorongosa Coffee Conversations, and I have to do something very special right now. Otherwise, my family won't be impressed, which is saying hello to them, and most specifically to my two aunties who are health workers. So you're doing great. Thank you so much for your work, Tia Suraida Kinlin and Tania Marisa Correa. And also, I want to say hello to some of the friends. And also hello to some of the friends that have joined, and some of amazing supporters such as Mira, Maya, hi, hey, hello, and thanks for joining if you're there. And to my colleagues, of course, always to my colleagues, you that always there working, and I'm sorry I'm not there, and I miss you all. Stay safe, and yeah, I hope to see you all soon. So I don't know if you want to say anything else, add anything else to comments or to anyone.
I want to say hi to everyone in Gorongosa, anyone who's there, any of my colleagues who are out in the world somewhere and are watching us now. I miss you all. We miss you all, Peter and I. And yeah, stay safe and keep doing the fantastic work you're doing. And this wonderful Gorongosa coffee, I'm enjoying it now.
Right.
I tell you, this is just such a fantastic story. If you don't know the story of the Gorongosa coffee, you must read up on it. We've probably run out of time, but it is a wonderful conservation story.
Thank you, Joyce. And once again, it's amazing to see you. And, I really hope we share more moments in the field together.
Yeah.
Yes, either in Gorongosa or anywhere else. And yeah, we keep in touch. And thank you so much for everything, to be my great mentor and to introduce me to elephants and everything, to kind of, paving the way to where I am now. Thank you.
Dominique, we're so proud of you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.
Bye.